Hello and welcome. This is Smart Systems. We are so glad you could join us today. Very quickly, our usual set of ground rules. We start with a 20 to 30-minute presentation. We then open it up to a live Q&A. You are welcome to use the built-in chat function for the Q&A at any point during the presentation. Just be aware that we'll begin addressing questions once the presentation is over. If your question does not get answered during the Q&A, rest assured that we'll respond shortly after the webinar. We'll open a support ticket for you, and the support engineer will be in touch. This is a weekly event. We host an online session like this every Wednesday at this time. If you are on our mailing list, you're going to get a separate invitation each week. And we're also planning to have some in-person sessions during the Clean Show in Atlanta. Please note that the meeting is being recorded so we can continue to provide you with the best service in the industry. By Friday, you should receive the link to this recording so you can review at your leisure. And lastly, we're always grateful for feedback from you. Right after the webinar, you're going to get a link to a very short survey, literally just a few clicks. It's going to take a minute of your time, but would help us immensely as we strive to make these events as informative and useful to you as possible. You're also welcome to email us at webinars@smartsystems.com. That's webinars, plural. With all that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. We're once again lucky to have Josh Nye with us this week. He is Smart's head of product. He's going to be presenting 10 distinct ways to improve your Smart experience, leverage the existing software features, and by doing so, make the most out of your software. Josh, welcome.
Thank you, Art. Always great to have you intro me. So when we talked about today's topic, we wanted to do something that was very simple and easy to understand and helpful for a lot of cleaners. And I've been to over 200 cleaners probably, and they're using Smart. And so these were things that I thought of and the rest of our team thought of were kind of easy ways to improve how you're using the product and also how you're running your business. So the first one, and these are in no particular order, the first one is using folders for your special cares. So if you're a business that does a lot of upcharges and has a complex set that, for example, this cleaner here has the first page of 15, this page of 15, and 33 more. I've seen it be very cluttered and unorganized. And so using folders, I've always found to be an easy way to take a large list of upcharges that kind of get either underused or misused because of the number of them or the complexity of them. And by organizing them into folders like this, you get a much more seamless use of those upcharges, and the correct upcharges get used more often. So let me show you how you do that. So this is our cleaner in San Francisco that I'm working on. And if I go to my account and I make a new order, say it's a gown, white, solid, cotton, Tom Ford. I then have these different folders, kind of like when you're selecting your item types, rather than just a massive list. And any of the ones that are blue means that there's a selection made within that. So if I go to brand, we've got our designer brand here, and then special process, wet clean, deep pill, maybe some pet hair, etc. So this screen, having these different folders is really helpful, especially when you have a large number of upcharges. And so the way that you set these is pretty simple. You go to settings, then detailing and pricing, and then price list. And then you go to special cares. And then on each special care in the settings option, there's this field for folder. And you don't have to create the folders in advance. You just type in whatever you want the folder to be called, and then it creates that folder automatically for you. So these ones are all in the brands folder. The Angora is going to be in fabrics. Got custom made is an item adjustment. And so you just type in whatever you want and it'll create that folder for you. So this cleaner here, they should definitely do that because I'll get something like this instead of this chaos of all these different options. So the next thing that's really interesting is our preferences page. And by default, you have a few preferences. Let's go back to my account. By default, every smart user has your shirt starch, your items to fold, your crease pants, and your damages. But at our cleaner, we've got this wet clean option. What this does is it allows our customers or our staff to select an option or multiple options, in this case, because it's checkboxes. And this wet clean option adds 40% to every item because we're going to wet clean it, not put it in our dry clean machine. This cleaner here has created a way larger number of preferences. And so rather than just crease pants, they've got crease pants, crease jeans, crease pants women, crease pants, or crease jeans women. And the way that these work is you've got two different flavors of a preference. So the first is radio buttons. And this allows you to make a single selection on all of the options. And then the list of items that this triggers for is set and is the same for every single option. But then on each radio button, you get a different special care. So in this very simple example, for laundry shirt starch, you've got your laundered shirts. Those are the items that are going to be affected by this preference. And then the light option triggers the light starch preference. Medium triggers the medium. Heavy triggers the heavy. For crease pants, as needed by Garmin, does not add any special care to the pants. But if you select never, you'll always get a no crease on any pants you mark in. And then if you select always, you'll get a crease special care automatically added to any pants you mark in. So that's the first option. It's radio buttons. You can select one of the options. It's for a particular set of items, and the different options either don't trigger a special care or trigger a different special care for each button. The second method is checkboxes, so items to fold. The way that this works is it triggers a single special care, so in this case, fold, and then it triggers it on different items based on what you select. And you can select multiple different options because it's checkboxes. So I could select shirts, polos, and sheets and linens. And then anytime I mark in a shirt or a polo or a sheet, it'll automatically get that fold upcharge. And with checkboxes, you can also get a little more advanced, where rather than it being just a single special care, so fold in this case, you could have it be, shirt packaging as a whole. And then in that case, you could have, fold, new collar stays always, stuff the sleeves, etc. So there's a bunch of different ways to use these. And the benefit here is that your customers can select them, one. So if you're doing anything kind of like our wet cleaning option, you're allowing your customers to opt into paying more. And because they've selected it, wow, you just got 40% more for all women's items in this case. But it also means that when your order finishes or prints out or is detailed, you get the correct special cares on it, and then you meet the desires of the customer. Number one, automatically, because it's being added automatically, and then two, you get that visual aid of wet clean here on this item over here, and then if it's crease pants, never, you'll get that no crease. And there's you can go crazy like this, or you can keep it simple, or just change a few. Unfortunately, you cannot edit this yourself, but our support team will be happy to add new options to your system. And all you have to do is tell us whether you want radio buttons, checkboxes, and then which items should be affected and what the special care should be. So the next thing is switching route regular customers to will call. So if you run routes, you probably have route regular customers where they're on the manifest automatically every Monday and Thursday. But a lot of those customers shouldn't be set up as route regular where they're on the manifest every time. They should be set up as will call where they're only on the manifest when they call you and tell you that they have a pickup, or they go online and schedule a pickup, or if they have a delivery. So anytime I switch someone from any other system to Smart, first thing we look at with their routes is how many customers that are set up as regular haven't used you in 3 months. And it's pretty consistently, over 30%, which leads me to believe that most of our customers also have a similar problem. So you can look at, a KPI that tells you how many of those customers, but rather, so this KPI, for example, that I'm looking at here is the number of customers that are route regulars but haven't had an order in 16 or in over 60 days. So we've got 16 on route one on route two, one on route three. If you want this KPI, talk to our support. We'll add it for you. We'll also send instructions for how to make this in the email following up this webinar. And it's really simple. You just move them to will call, and then they don't show up on the manifest. You're not wasting gas. They can schedule it themselves, and your drivers will finish sooner. And it just makes your route efficiency much more effective. Now, the one caveat here is if it's a very good customer that consistently replies no to the opt-out messages, you may want to hold off on switching them. But in general, anybody that's not special, it's much better to just move them to will call. And when you move them to will call, don't be afraid. You're not going to lose those customers. They're not going to go away. You can still contact them consistently with our will call opt-in functionality. So anytime we turn, what this does is rather than sending out a reply no to be taken off the manifest text, it sends a reply yes to be added to the manifest. But it only sends that message to will call customers. And it looks like this. We're in your area tomorrow. Reply yes, and we'll come back for a pickup. Customer replies yes. They get added to whatever date is next. And there's two methods for how you send this. The first is you can send it based on customer reply frequency. So for example, let's say Josh replies yes once a month. The system will, over time, will learn that the pattern of that customer, and then it'll know not to text them every week, rather every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, depending on their frequency. Then the other option is always send it. So if you got a Monday, Thursday route, it's going to send it every Sunday and every Wednesday to every will call customer. And then anytime we've turned this on, we've seen about a 25% increase in pickups. It makes your route more efficient because you're getting more stops that have a pickup. And it also helps you move customers to will call without that fear of losing them. It's also editable by route. So if you have a commercial route, maybe to a cruise ship office building, you don't need to turn it on for that. You can go into each one of your routes, and then at the very bottom of the route settings, you turn it on, and you can select your two different options here. Number 5, use an assembly conveyor. So first thing there is, if you're not heat sealing, you should probably be heat sealing. I've never heard anyone say, I regret moving to heat seals. So if you're not heat sealing, especially if you're doing over 500 pieces a day, move to heat sealing, number 1. Now, for all of you that are heat sealing, if you're not using a conveyor, whether that's conveyor we make or metal progetti, again, if you're doing over 500 pieces a day, you probably want to look at a conveyor. So I've got 3 reports here. The first is a customer that does not have a conveyor. They use assisted assemblies. They're walking around through their bay, hanging the pieces up, whatnot. I then have a customer using 2 of our conveyors, and then a customer using a metal progetti. So I looked at a bunch of different dates for this and I decided on this one. So this customer's max throughput per hour was 135 pieces. So they did 878 pieces that day. They're walking around doing all that. This customer, using 2 of our conveyors that we manufacture, their max throughput for this day was 531 an hour. So yes, they have a higher volume, but the only reason they can have that higher volume and get it done on time is because they're using that conveyor for automation, and they've got 2 of them. So one for shirts, one for dry cleaning. And the second customer is they've got 20 stores, 1 plant, and they're running everything through a metal projetti. On this particular day, their max throughput was 429, so pieces an hour. So this customer cannot grow to the size of these customers without adding staff. So if they want to, quadruple or triple the number of pieces they do a day, they would currently have to add 3 employees. This customer does it all with that same one employee. And when you're using assisted assembly, that employee is walking, they're looking at the numbers that are up, and it's a physical job. They're reaching over their shoulder, which then wears out your shoulder. Your employees, if you get them, one of our conveyors or a metal projetti, they're gonna love it. They don't have to walk around, which means they're not tired. And when they're not tired, they're not going to make as many mistakes about putting the item on the wrong slot or forgetting to pull an item out, whatever it may be. Get a conveyor, and if you're not heat sealing, you should be heat sealing. So the sixth thing that I think is important is stop sending statements. You don't need to be doing it. Maybe it's a hospital or a hotel, sure, keep sending them a statement. That's not what we're talking about. A retail standard customer that's on a route is not going to quit you because you stop sending them a statement, period. They use Amazon, they use the internet, they're used to putting a cart on file, they're used to paying for what they get delivered before it gets delivered, period. So if you're sending statements, stop it. There's no point in continuing to do that. There's no need for you to build up that AR. There's no need for you to, have to print out statements, mail them. If you're using auto pay monthly, move it to daily. Your cash flow is going to change dramatically. 5-6 years ago, a customer switched to us. He sat me down and he goes, "Josh, you didn't tell me that my cash flow was going to improve this much." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I was charging on the first Monday of the month for one route, the second Monday for another route, third, fourth for the other routes. We moved into daily auto pay, and I didn't know it was going to happen back then." But he goes, "You got to talk about this. This is great for my cash flow. All of my financial stress has been dramatically reduced." So stop sending statements. Your customers don't care. Don't be afraid. They're not going to quit you. Second, move to daily auto pay if you're doing monthly auto pay. And then third, if Mrs. Jones spends $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month, and she, says, "Oh, I'm quitting you if you don't send me a statement," fine, send her a statement. But for everybody else, move them to auto pay, get your money in your pocket. The next thing is item field requirements. So whenever you detail an item, there's a variety of inputs you can make. So on this gown, for example, I put color, pattern, fabric, and brand, and then special cares and a barcode. So you can require these fields for different types of items. And what that does, it means that when someone goes to detail an item, they're required to put in all the information that you want them to put in. And the way that you set these up is you go to settings, detailing and pricing, and then item fields. You go to add a rule. You can name it. So let's say gowns. We want color, pattern, textile, brand, and a barcode for every gown. And we're just going to enable it in this case for gown. So if I go back to my account, I've got everything but a barcode. I try and close the order. It then warns me, hey, you're missing a barcode on this item. So if I was missing fabric, color, pattern, brand, it would also block me from closing that order and tell me I need to define those fields. Now, if you turn this on, the one I made here with these options is generally what you want for all your shirts, all your dry cleaning. But for your households, a lot of the time you don't want to require brand because it's hard to see. So for households, we could do color and maybe textile. And we're just going to do it for our household department. And so now for households, all we need is color and textile. And then the last thing is the special cares. So what this does is it requires for certain items or departments that you put one of the special cares. So maybe for shirts, you want to require that one of these is always added. And if we go back to number 2 on the presentation, our preferences are going to automatically do this for us. But the way that these work is they require you to add a special care to the selected items or departments, and they have to pick one of them. Whereas the items and departments, it's anything that matches that criteria. So maybe for leathers, you want to put a no release or release option. And so before you can close a leather order, it reminds the user that, hey, did you get a release? You need to select one of the 2 options. Next thing is increasing your prices in bulk. Inflation, yep, sure thing, it's real. Your customers now more than ever are going to be totally fine with you increasing your prices, and they were fine with you increasing your prices before now anyways. So I've got a customer, every time he goes on vacation, gets to the airport, he goes into his system and he increases his prices by 3%. He's a high-end customer, so he can do that. That may not be the best way for you to handle it, but your customers use you because they trust you and they value your service. You can raise your prices, they're not going to leave you, and the ones that will probably weren't the best customers anyways. So rather than increasing them, one by one, you can use our bulk price increaser to do this for you. So to use this, you go to settings, detailing and pricing, price list. And then in your item prices here, there's this button, modify all item types. But maybe we don't want to do all of our item types, so we just want to do shirts and tops. So if we select shirts and tops, we're now only modifying 12 item prices. When you click this, you get the option for percentage or a fixed amount. So I can increase it by $5 or maybe 5%. And then maybe I want to round to the nearest 99 cents. So I apply that. It then changes the prices here. You can review them before you save. And then maybe I want to say, okay, blouse, that's too much for a blouse. We're just going to do $11. And then once you're ready, you've proofed it all, you can save. And it warns you just to make sure. Definitely don't want to save that. Next thing, don't ask your customers when they want their order back. I see this all the time. When do you want your order back? First customer says Wednesday to Monday. Okay, 2 days, great. Next customer says Tuesday. Next customer says Thursday. And you're putting in these various order dates when everything came in relatively at the same time. There's no need for it. You should just have 2 flavors, and that's standard. So if you're next day service, that's next day. If you're 2 day service, that's 2 days from now. If they need it before that standard service, mark it as a rush, put the items in a red bag, put a red special tag on them, and they're rush. So they move through production faster than everything else, as it comes in, moves at the same speed as every other item that came in that same day. If you're using a conveyor, it reduces the amount of time that an item sits on that conveyor waiting for another piece. So which then leads to faster assembly. And even if you're not using a conveyor, assisted assembly, it'll move faster. It's just not necessary to ask the customer what due date they want for their order. And with our ready texting, as soon as the order is done, they'll get a text that their order is done. So when will it be ready? If it's a Monday, it'll be ready on Wednesday. Okay, great. See you Wednesday. They get a text on Tuesday when it finishes early, and you just got credit for beating their expectation. As a customer continues to use you, they'll get used to that text. And then if they don't get a text on Wednesday when they thought it was gonna be ready because something happened, your boiler went down, whatever it may be, they go to text on Thursday, and they're not angry because they didn't show up on Wednesday looking for the item. They got their text on Thursday, they knew it was ready. Last thing is our issue tracker. So a lot of times I see customers using just the messaging portal. So if we go to another system here. Let's try a different one. It's our QA instance, so developers might be working on it. All right, well, I don't know if my computer's messed up or if messaging is down, but nevertheless, in the messaging tab, there's three different options. One says your issues, one says unassigned issues, and the second says everyone's issues. And anytime a text or an email comes into the system, it creates an issue. It's like a note, it's just a different category called an issue. And that issue can be unassigned, assigned, or resolved. When it's unassigned, it means that no one's looked at it yet, or no one's taken any action on it. And it's a customer communication. They're expecting a reply, and you need to either assign it to someone that's going to take care of it or resolve it. When you go through that messaging module we have, you'll see the red ones, those are the unassigned, blue is assigned, and then green is resolved. And a lot of times I see people just using that feed and scrolling through the feed to find the red ones or the blue ones to see what they need to fix or resolve rather. And instead of that, in that same area within the system, there's those three options on the left side that have your issues, unassigned issues, and everyone's issues. Your issues are going to be any unresolved customer communication that's assigned to you. Unassigned issues is going to be anything that's unassigned. And then everyone is going to be every unresolved issue, whether it's assigned or unassigned. And it lets you via the due date, the category of the message, then you can click on these, open up the customer account, and reply or resolve them. And ideally, this should always be empty so that you know that every customer has been replied to. And you can filter it by category, you can filter it by assignee, you can pick due date ranges and whatnot. If you've got a lot of stores and you don't have a central customer service agent, and you want your store managers to be responsible for the different the communications from your customers for that particular store, we can make you a KPI that has just that store's communications and put it on their store 8 dashboard or whatever it may be. That's it for the 10 things. I'm happy to answer questions.
Great, thank you, Josh. A couple of questions in the chat log. A few of them general, and some of them are referring, like the first one refers to the descriptors versus upcharges. We're being asked if the fabrics are supposed to be used just for identification purposes, or if there should be an upcharge associated with them. I think I've seen both in the field. What are
Yeah, I
your
mean,
thoughts?
polyester, right, you're probably not gonna upcharge for. But the way that the fabrics work is, again, in detailing pricing, in fabrics, you can add an upcharge to a fabric. So in this case, the linen upcharge is added to the linen fabric. And the silk upcharge is added to the silk fabric. If you want to kind of dumb this down, and you can just do, fabric upcharge $1, fabric upcharge $2, and then you can assign, linen and silk to fabric upcharge 2, maybe cotton to fabric upcharge 1. And so that way you don't have as many upcharges, but you still get that link and the actual upcharge on the fabric that's selected.
Right. Could you demonstrate taking a picture of a garment? That was one of the things discussed, and that's a request that came through.
Yeah. So there's two ways to do it. The first is whenever you're detailing an item, as long as you have a camera connected, click the camera button and you can take a picture of the item. Save photo, boom. Now there's the item. The other option is to use our automatic photo system. And the way that that works is you've got a QR code. A set of QR codes. And then at detailing, you place the items down over this sheet with the QR codes, and the system will automatically take the picture of the item for you as you're detailing it. So for new items, scan the barcode, put it down, system takes a picture while you detail it. And then at assembly, put up like a foam board or something. And then right here, you see the camera pointed at the QR code. As you scan the garment, you see it on the screen. If it doesn't have a picture, you hang it up and the system will automatically take a picture of the item. And so here's, our wrinkled pictures at detailing. This makes it very easy to find an item when you're looking for it, because instead of just a blue shirt, the exact texture and pattern. And then at assembly, you get a nice pretty picture, and the customers can see both of these in their online wardrobe as well. You get them here.
Great. Can bulk price increases be automated? For example, be set to automatically increase semi-annually or annually?
Nope. And one thing to be aware of when you do a price increase is you may want to go to the database and download your price list, just in case, you, not just in case, I've seen people accidentally just increase their prices 3% 3 different times because I don't know why, but like, oops. So go download your price list before you do it, and that way you have a backup.
Great. Another question through an outside channel. Um, oh, this is regarding daily auto pay versus statement customers. For any customers who still want to remain on emailed statements or mailed statements, is there a way to isolate them to a group so that that function can be performed in a batch and also automated?
Well, the statements are generated automatically, for 99% of our customers anyways. So, if this is how I'm set up on the statement, invoice at the end of the month, emailed automatically, and in general, you're moving your customers, the first thing would be well, there's two ways to do it actually. You could just switch them to auto pay and charge their cards, or if they don't have a card on file, you're gonna need to contact them and get a card. But when you're switching a customer from statement to auto pay, it's, you click on auto pay and now they're auto pay. So if Mrs. Jones doesn't want to be switched, you just leave them a statement and they'll still be automatically, they'll automatically get a statement and they'll automatically be emailed.
Great.
The other thing too is not as big of a shift, but it's a nice way to ease them into it. Is you can move them from statement to auto pay monthly, and then you can send them a statement automatically. It shows a zero balance after their card's been charged. And so that's kind of a natural flow if you don't want to rip the bandit off that fast.
Back to price increases, can we see when the last price increase was made and by whom?
You can see when it was made, but only by looking at the history of your orders for customers. We're adding a reset function and a log of bulk price increases.
Okay.
I see one that says, how do we remove the bounce forward on statements? So that's a good question. You don't remove the bounce forward from statements, but rather than sending a statement, you can send an invoice. And an invoice doesn't have a bounce forward at all. You go to better customer name. All right, so we've got this customer with the balance. When we make a statement, we have a bounce forward because it's a statement and they're supposed to have bounce forwards. Now, instead of sending a statement, and this is very often used for hotels and other corporate clients, we can make an invoice. An invoice does not have a bounce forward, and it's just a sum of the orders for that time period. So it says invoice rather than statement, no bounce forward. It's just the whatever time period was, the sum of the order. So it won't show the credits or anything like that. It's a proper invoice. And you can set it up to be generated automatically in settings, invoice settings. So let's say I don't want statements, but I want invoices on the first of the month. And now you get the invoice document type rather than the statement document type. And this can be done at a global level or just a customer by customer level.
Right. One question that came in as a direct message, I think just to me, was wardrobe related, the virtual wardrobe that was on the screen. Would you mind pulling that up again and just expanding on that and how that works? Because that's part of the customer portal as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's every item I've ever had cleaned in my wardrobe. And this is in the POS. And if I go to my customer site, you can see my active order, but I can also see every item I've ever had cleaned as well. And when you take a picture of an item, it shows up in the wardrobe for that barcode. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and again, if you're looking for additional details on things that we've discussed here, you are more than welcome to reach out to us for with additional questions, and we'll be sure to respond. We'll take one last question for this session, and that's the invoice-related question. Does the work have to be completed in order for the invoice to contain that information?
Yeah, so it has to enter AR, which means it's in the payment screen here. And it enters based on the ready date, which is either racking or being picked up or delivered. If you want to create a document that shows in process work for a customer, go to their payment tab, click on open invoices, pick your date range, do created date, and this will now include every order based on the date it was created rather than the date it entered AR. And if any of those orders are potentially paid, you're going to want to select all orders, submit, and then you get a document very similar to the invoice, but now it shows any order that was created and not just the ones that were picked up, racked, or delivered.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Again, if your question did not get answered in the course of the Q&A, we'll be sure to reach out to you directly very, very soon. A couple of very quick thoughts in closing. By this Friday, you should get a recording of this webinar. It will be available on our YouTube channel. If you haven't been to our YouTube channel, go check it out and subscribe. You'll get notifications as we add new content. You'll also receive a separate follow-up email, as Josh mentioned, that will highlight some of the features discussed today and will contain some instructions. Mm, And lastly, running a slight risk of over-communication, will send you a very brief survey that will only take a minute of your time. If you would, that will help us make these events better and more informative for you in the future. We received a few complimentary messages in the chat log. Thank you so much. It's always gratifying to see those. We appreciate you and we appreciate having you. We hope to see you again next week when we return to the fruitful subject of marketing. Separate invitation is forthcoming. And in the meantime, thanks again and have a great day.